Hey guys, this is Tiffany. I am trying to record this for the second time. My kid is interrupting me, so we'll see how it goes. This is a book and TV show. It's going to be called The Read and Watch List. Each time I finish a book or I feel like I want to talk about a book or a TV show, I will record a video on it. So I have... Oh, I moved my notes. That's okay. Okay. So the first book I want to talk about is the book I'm reading, and it is called Speaker for the Dead. It is my husband's book, but I have read the first book in the series, which is Ender's Game. Alright, so Speaker for the Dead. It is by Orson Scott Card. It is a sci-fi book. Sci-fi is kind of my genre. I like sci-fi. I read a lot of those books and some fantasy. My husband's collection is mostly fantasy, so I've been reading some of that. So I read a lot of, I'm trying to read a lot of fantasy, trying to get into it, because there's a lot of good books on his list that are on the shelf here that look really interesting. It's a work in progress. I'm having a hard time with it. I don't know why it's so different, because sci-fi books tend to have really strange, complex characters with weird names and things like that. And so, but it's a weird transition. I don't know. I do read a lot of urban fantasy where it's like werewolves, vampires, shapeshifters, druids, and things like that. And those are fine. I don't know why it's hard transitioning into the adult fantasy. But it is. But back to Speaker for the Dead. It's a book about the ethics and morals of judging and classifying creatures and things like that. So if you don't know Ender is a boy who is enlisted by the military in a game to defeat a creature of alien that is perceived to be invading. I don't want to go too much into that because that's the first book. So if you want to read the first book, it's great too. But in this next book, in The Speaker for the Dead, he has realized his mistakes from the first book, and now he is the speaker for the dead. So he goes into societies and he speaks the truth about people who've died or creatures who've died, and he wants to correct what he's done wrong. And in this story, there is a group of aliens. They're aliens to the people, but they're not aliens because they are the natural creatures on this planet that has been colonized by humans. And this is thousands and thousands of years in the future. Probably millions. Okay, baby. And, just one moment. And in this book, you've got through time, you have about 3 anthropologists or biologists that study this race of creature. And they're humanoid, but they're less developed as this civilized, colonizing human race. So these 3 people end up dying inside this other village, and you have to figure out why. And that's why Ender has come to this place to figure out why. It's good. It's really good. It's very ethical. I'm not ethical in the sense, you learn how to think ethically. And is this moral? Is this ethical? Is it okay what we're doing? Is it okay that these humans have gone into this village and is trying to learn about them, but won't share any other information? And then you find out in the book that they've actually have helped this village create certain things. And is that okay? Should we leave indigenous cultures indigenous, or should we change that? Should we help them? And is it okay for that? And what kind of things will that lead to? So it's really good in that sense. It's slow. It's taken me a while to get through it. It's mostly dialogue. But it's fun. I like it. If you're into it, if you're into sci-fi, definitely. If you're into ethical and moral questions, it's definitely a good book. I don't know. You probably should read the first one first, which is Ender's Game. I think it could go both ways. I think you could probably read this one and then figure out based on the first one. You choose, I guess. The other book I finished, or the other book I have finished, this one I haven't finished, but the other book I have finished is The Girl on the Train by Paula Hawkins. I listened to this one. I didn't read it, but I think I enjoyed it more. I tried reading it and it was good, but when I listened to it, I enjoyed it way more because they had 3 different readers for each female perspective in the story, and that was fun. It's about a girl or a woman who's on a train, and she passes this house every single day, and she creates a narrative for this family or this couple she sees. And it turns out this female has now been murdered when she's viewing through the train. And she feels she's at fault. There's something going on. She needs to put herself inside the story to see what's going on. Mental illness is completely through the whole story. And I think that's great. I think it's great to see the different perspectives of mental illness, which is great. It's not as suspenseful as it seems to be. I mean, I've read a lot of suspense stories, so I saw the way it was going from the beginning. It was like, it unfolded exactly how I thought it would. But I think it'd be a good movie. I'm excited to see the movie. I think it'd be good. But yeah, it was good. It wasn't like mind-blowing, but it was good. The other books I finished are on my Kindle. And I can't figure out how to get the little picture of the book in the screen. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But I'll try to put the links down below for the specific books. But the first book I finished, I'm going to have to go get my notes, just a minute. The first book on my Kindle that I finished was called The Last Survivor by Bobby Adair and T.W. Piperbrook, I think. It's a post-apocalyptic book, and that's kind of my thing. I like those books. Where our society, today's society, has destroyed the whole world. There was a war. There was technology that just completely destroyed the world. Now there's a new group of humans that have survived that or been born from that. And they are living in the ruins of our big sculptures, our towers and things, all of this rubble around them. They've created a story of what happened. This book is heavily into religion, and not our today's religion, but the religion based on the answers to what happened, and believing wholeheartedly in something that's not provable or could possibly not be the truth. You've got a mom and her son who have escaped this village because there is a disease that affects the males, and you begin getting warts on your skin, and it turns into a zombie-like state. And her son has begun showing signs, so she escapes the village because once the children or once the males begin showing signs, they burn them alive to not allow it to spread. But people have been doing this without question. They don't know why. They just do it because they believe this is their safety. This is safe for them, and their bishops have decided this is what needs to be done. So she escapes. She takes her son through the forest, meets a a warden who is killing all of these zombies for money, because you can take their scalps and get money. Most of the story is showing her survival in the forest with this Bray character. And very little, but good snippets are dealt with the religion side and the fight between the religion and science, which is interesting. I would have liked to see more of that, because that was very, very interesting. Whereas the Ella character and her son, it was okay, but it wasn't great. It's the first book in a series. It ended kind of meh. I really didn't want to read the second one. It just didn't seem very exciting to me. She ends up going back to her village, not the village she escaped, but the village she was born in. And everyone is dead. Everyone is dead. They're all over the place. And she finds out that it was the village she escaped in. The bishop there has done it, has decided to punish her by killing everyone in her old village. That's how it ended. And I just didn't feel like it was so, I didn't like it. It wasn't, it's supposed to get you into her getting angry and finding answers. And, I didn't like it. I probably gave you a spoiler if you wanted to read the book. But there's some things in it that I liked. There was, you can see where it's going. You can see that, this zombie-like state probably isn't what they think it is.
TV turn off.
Okay, I'll come turn on in just a minute. I will in just a minute. I'm almost done. Okay. It was alright. It wasn't fantastic. And I probably won't read the second one because it was I didn't really care for it. I didn't feel invested into the characters. I didn't feel like the story was really worth going into. If they had put more into the zombie storyline and explained that a little differently, I'll put it back in just a minute. I would have read it more. I would have wanted to read more, but I didn't.
Blanket the yarn.
Yep, the blanket is the yarn. Then the second book I finished was called Chasing Paris. And this was just a fiction literature book drama. And it's about a character called Amy and how she has just graduated from UCLA and in English. And she finds out that her grandmother, who she didn't know existed, is the sister of the grandmother she called grandmother. And you get to read the stories of how her grandmother spent pretty much her 20s and how she questioned things and how she wanted to be a celebrity and how kind of... Thank you. Baby's watching, huh?
Yeah.
How chaotic her grandmother's life was. And how it mirrors Amy's life. It was good. It's again, it ends pretty predictably. Yeah, there she is right there. It's alright. It's not great. It's okay. It's one of those books that's okay. It doesn't have any kind of ethical or moral implications, which I tend to like in books. That's why I read a lot of sci-fi books. I am currently reading a sci-fi book, which is pretty interesting because it's set in Washington State, which I kind of like. It's called The Hands of Ruin, and it's about a Zool master in what's presumed another planet or another dimension. And they have masters that use sand, this red sand, with magic. And then with that, you have people that are in the future Washington State, and where you have blocks of counties. Poor counties, wealthy counties, middle-class counties, and they've been divided because there was so much chaos with the poor people affecting the rich people's lives. They decided to block off the counties, which is interesting, and I like that kind of development in books because it's leading. But so far, it's really good. I like it. I'm really not that far into it. I'm only into the third chapter, but I like it a lot. So we'll see how that goes. I think I'll do my TV shows in a part 2 because this is getting pretty long already, and the kids are in here. Okay. And I'm also currently listening to a Jim Butcher. It's a fantasy book, and it's got collections of stories from a lot of fantasy writers. And it's called Shadowed Souls, and it's got a collection from other writers. There's a story that I liked from Shannon McGuire. These are a whole bunch of authors I've never read before, but I looked them up, and I think I'm going to read some more from them. And they're all about good and evil and the line between them. Is there a line between good and evil, or is it kind of blended? You know, are you doing something good for good reasons? Are you doing them for bad reasons? Are you doing bad things for good reasons? I mean, it's blended in there, right? So, it's interesting. I like it. There's lots of ghosts and vampires and succubus and things like that. So, it's interesting. I like it. I like Jim Butcher. I've been reading off and on. I've been trying to read his series of... I can't quite remember the name of it now, but it's here somewhere. And I like it. I like Jim Butcher. So, those are the books. The TV show I just recently finished was Iron Fist, and I didn't like it. The story was okay. The fighting was okay. The characters were okay. I just didn't like it. When you put it against a show like Daredevil, it just doesn't wash. It's not the same. It's like putting Daredevil next to, Spider-Man or something. I mean, it's so juvenile. Iron Fist was so juvenile to me compared to Daredevil. Daredevil was an adult-style show, and Iron Fist was like a watered-down version of it. I just didn't like it. The fighting, the choreography was so... You could tell it was choreographed. Like, it just didn't feel real. The story was cliche. I could tell where the story was going from the very first episode. And I don't know anything about Iron Fist at all. But if you're into kung fu superhero, sure, go ahead and watch it. But I watched it primarily so I could watch Defenders. That was my main reason. We needed to get through that to get to Defenders, and so that's why I watched it. So the next on the list is The Defenders. Yeah. I don't think I've been watching that much of anything else. I watch other things here and there, but nothing really to speak on. So there's that. Yeah. So I think that's it. Hopefully this isn't edited too much because the kids are all up in my face. I'll have another crafty video coming up soon. We'll see how this one goes. Bye, guys.